Hey YouTube, this is a quick video on an electric water heater replacement. I'll go into how my water heater broke. I'll also talk about how a water heater works in general, and then we'll go into the actual steps of removing the old water heater and installing the new one. I do want to say that I'm not a professional plumber at all. This is a do-it-yourselfer solution, and of course you do this at your own risk. I will say this worked out really well for me. I spent less than 500 bucks to fix a whole entire thing, and I actually picked up a few cool tools on the way. So I saved a lot of money. It was really straightforward, and I think almost anybody can do this themselves. Hello YouTube, I'm here to talk about my water heater which has recently broke. I'll kind of show you how I know it's broken. I'm also going to talk about just how a water heater works. And lastly, I'll go over how I replaced my water heater. It's pretty easy, so I think you can do it if you're handy at all. First thing is my water heater's broken. The first indication of this was I lost all the hot water in my house. But if you need a little more evidence, for example, you can see all the water here. Like the tank for your water heater is actually inside behind this insulation, and it's leaking. It's actually like ruptured or maybe just worn down. But I mean, your insulation here should not be wet. Plus, there's like this nasty smell in the house. It smells like rotten eggs or fish. So my water heater's definitely broken. The last thing you could do to kind of check everything out, as you can see, it was built in the year 08. It's 2019 when I filmed this, so this water heater is about 11 years old, and they typically only last about, 8 to 10 years. So everything checks out. The hot water stopped working. It's wet on the insulation, which is a dead giveaway. And as you saw on the label, it's about 11 years old, so it's time for a replacement anyway. As like how a water heater works, it's really easy actually. So you have two water supply lines up top there, the white PVC. The cold water comes in and down into the water heater, makes the water hot, and then the hot water leaves and goes out there, to all your sinks and other appliances. The electricity, as you can probably imagine, comes through this gray metallic type wire. There's only 3 wires actually under there. It looks complicated, but it's really easy. And last but not least, this is the pressure release valve. Pretty much your water heater is heating up water, right? So hot things expand. It's building pressure inside the tank. Now, for any reason that pressure gets crazy high, that pressure needs somewhere to escape. If it had nowhere to escape, you pretty much have a bomb here and the whole water heater would just explode. So now all water heaters have this pressure release valve. If the pressure gets too high, it'll actually shoot water out, and mine's routed outside of the house. So if it were to get too much pressure, water would come out of here and it would shoot out of my house, preventing this thing from exploding. So it's a very important feature. But that's pretty much how a water heater works. Cold water in, heats it up, hot water out. You get your energy from here, or electricity, and your hot water pressure valve, your high pressure valve is here. So it's fairly simple. So now I want to talk about the steps to remove the old water heater. The first thing you want to do is turn off the water to your house. That's usually like in your crawl space, but the main water, so there could be no water flowing. And you also want to turn off the electricity for the water heater. Conveniently, my circuit breaker's here. Water heater corresponds here, and I've already flipped this off. So my water's off and my electricity's off. First step down. The next thing you want to do is actually empty out the water from the water heater, right? So first things first, you want to turn this, I've already turned it, perpendicular. You want to stop any new water coming through. So just in case, close that off. And then you want to go down here and you want to hook up like a garden hose or something to this. And then you want to take this and turn it to the left. That'll actually drain out the water from the water heater. It'll go through the hose, and I'm going to route mine out back. So nice and easy. So once you've got your water drained, you really just need to disconnect the electricity. It's 3 wires, very easy. you need to disconnect these two water lines, and you need to disconnect this pipe. So it's really just four things, right? It's these three pipes and this electricity. So I'll get into how to kind of do those all. So I'll start out with the two water supply pipes, the two PVCs. What I'm going to do for my application is I'm going to cut this pipe right here and cut this pipe right there. Keep in mind, my water is off. If my water wasn't off, when I cut these, it's just going to, when I cut this one, it's just going to gush water out. So it's crucially important that your water is off before you do this. But I'm going to cut here and I'm going to cut there. And that's going to leave two bare pipes, right? Let me go over to my tools, which I can list if you guys need me to. But for the water pipes that I'm doing first, these are going to be your best friend. They're called Shark Bite braided steel hoses. There's a couple cool features about these. First is they're Shark Bite, which means there's no threads inside of here. I can just push it onto the pipe and it's gonna make a watertight seal. Obviously I'm gonna replace the one with the valve here on this side where the cold water comes in, because there's already a valve here. And this one's cheaper because it has no valve. But I'm gonna take the Shark Bite here. I'm gonna push it onto this pipe, and then they'll be connected. Of course, the other side of both of these braided steel hoses has the threads, which I'll be able to screw on to the new water heater. So that's really easy, actually. I'm just cutting each pipe. I'm pushing on these braided steel hoses, and then I'll screw them right onto here. No problem, man. So done. Water line's hooked up. Alright, so next up I'm going to talk about replacing the pressure relief valve. It's a little tougher. It's probably going to be the hardest part of this whole job. The reason I say that is because this is my old water heater. It's located here on the old water heater, right? But when you look at the new one, there's no pressure relief valve there. It's because it's actually oriented in a completely different area. So the challenge that I have is I want to connect my new pressure relief valve to this pipe here, right? Because the water would potentially go out of that, and I want it to go down into there. So what I'm going to do is use some CPVC pipe to make the connection, and I'm going to tie it in right there. So let me explain. I'm going to cut this right here, right? So I got a nice vertical pipe just sitting there. And as far as this goes, I've got a connector. Screw that in. There it goes. All right, so I'll screw that in. And then I've got a couple elbows. And I've got this PVC pipe, CPVC pipe. CPVC can handle higher temperatures. Regular old PVC cannot. So make sure you get the CPVC pipe for this application. So I'll pretty much just use this connector and a couple pieces of this pipe with a couple of these elbows, and I will marry up that piece to that tube. That way, heaven forbid, on my new water heater, if the pressure release valve starts shooting out water, it'll get routed outside the house. For the electrical connectors, the old one's already hooked up, right? So you pretty much just want to copy the way the old one's done to the new one. So let's take a look. There's red coming out of the water heater, and that gets connected to the black one. All right. So there's red coming out of the water heater here. I would just hook up this red to the black one. And then there's black coming out of the water heater here. And that hooks up to the white one. So I would take the black one coming out of my new water heater, and I'd hook this one up to the white one. Last but not least, there is a third wire See that right there? It'll come out of your electrical cable. That's your ground, and pretty much it just wraps around, and you put a screw through there to keep it in place. So just copy the way the two wires are hooked up, and then screw in the ground into the new one. Nice and easy. I've disconnected the electrical. As you can see, it's just two wires, and I've also cut this pipe and cut that pipe. You use one of these, you pretty much put it on and you keep spinning it around, and every once in a while you tighten this black thing, which squeezes it a little tighter, and you keep spinning until they cut. So that's cut, electrical disconnected, and I also used the same method to cut that off. So now there's nothing holding this tank into my house, so time to remove it. Sorry I didn't film it, but it's really as easy as it sounds. You just take the two shark bites, you push them on the bare pipe, and then you thread it on. One thing to note is whenever you're doing a metal to metal connection, you're supposed to wrap the thread. See this white stuff? It's Teflon tape. It's really, really cheap. It's really, really easy. Just wrap the threads before you screw this on. That way it's a little more watertight. It kind of adds a little, give to it. We're getting there. So water supply lines are hooked up. Now I need to connect the pressure relief valve up there to the drain down here, which I said would be the trickiest part. A big thing that's going to help us here is the double-sided shark bite connector. Pretty much you can take one pipe and push it in here, and another pipe, push it in there, and it connects them in a watertight seal. So how I'm going to use this is I'm going to snap it onto here, and then I'll connect my PVC right here. That gives me an easy way to connect some elbows and push the PVC pipe right onto this bad boy. It's gonna be pretty easy. Alright, it's starting to look like we got something working here. I just connected all the PVC. I highly recommend you get a pair of these. They cut PVC pipe really easily. They're like 15 bucks. Well worth it. They make your life easy. Don't use a hacksaw, that's annoying. So as discussed, I kind of put an elbow on here, ran it over, another elbow, ran it down, and aren't these shark bite things amazing? Done. So anytime water comes out of that pressure relief valve, it's going to be shooting right out of the house. Awesome. Alrighty, so the next step is to actually fill the tank up with water. You'll have to go back under your crawl space, turn your main water on, and when you do, the water is going to start filling up the tank, right? Now as this water comes up, it's going to be squishing the remaining air tighter and tighter and tighter. So there's going to be pressure building up in here. You got to let that pressure out somehow, right? The way you do that is you actually go to your kitchen sink or bathroom sink or bathtub, it doesn't really matter, and you turn on the hot water, and the air will actually spit out of your faucet here. That'll happen while the water heater is filling up, and once it's full, this will actually just shoot out like normal, right? It'll just be like a normal stream of water, and that's how you know your water heater's full. Yeah, so that's what you want to see when you're filling up the tank. Pretty vigorous. But just let it go until it's a nice solid stream. It'll take a few minutes. Alrighty, so I took the existing cable, put it through the new plate. The ground comes out of here, and this kind of as a U-turn. It gets pinched right there. And like I said before, we just copied the same way that the old one was wired to how the new one's wired. It's really easy. So now I'm going to put this plate on, and I think we're done actually. The water's in it, all three pipes are hooked up, electrical's hooked up. I guess when I tie this down actually, I can flip back on the power, and it should begin to heat the water in here.